Listen, there was a list of names that I chucked forward that I would have liked, but you know, one thing I will say is fight. I think it sort of keeps the fans happy to say, okay, yeah, let's see how he's looking, knowing that that's around the corner, and the same with Wilder. Let's see how Wilder's looking, knowing that that's around the corner.
Right, Ben, here we are on a rooftop in a Marbella in the sun, 30 degrees. You're looking brown. Not a bad life, is it?
Not bad. I've been out here for a couple of weeks, so bound to get a tan, especially with my my heritage.
Your heritage being the dark tanning cream I can see over there. Just out of shot.
Yeah, something like that.
How's it been then? How's it been out here? Obviously you're so used to it out here. You've been here, I think you said before that you used to come out here as a kid, so it's a familiar environment for you, as well as Tyson, as well as Billy Joe and Isaac, who you got out here as well. Yeah,
of course, and you know, we come out here to start off with Billy Joe, just to get him in the routine of training. It's supposed to be a date earlier in September than anticipated. So I thought we'd get him over here, start bringing the weight off him, which is always good. Obviously it didn't work out that way and didn't happen. But it's good to have him over here to keep his weight down. And it's a healthy way of living. You can live cleaner over in the sun while you're away. Tyson's come over, Isaac's been over. You know, Tyson's had his finishing up his first week here. And he's already saying to me there, can we extend the time that we're supposed to be here for? But we'll play it by ear. But it's a fantastic place to train. We get very well looked after by MTK. The gym's fantastic facilities, nice people, clean living, good weather, and you know, we get looked after as well by Tyson sponsor Marbella.co.uk, who look after us with accommodation and all things like that as well. So. You know, everything that we need is here. So it's a perfect place to set up training camp, especially to start things off.
And you say he gets looked after in the gym and he enjoys the gym. Yesterday we were there, obviously everyone wants to talk to him there. He seems to know everyone there. He's sparring with kids, featherweight women, everything like that. He said he loves it, and can you tell he's happy when he's there?
He is, yeah, and that's like what I said earlier. It's about the balance of things, and this week it's okay him easing in, but obviously, you know, as things tighten up and get a little bit closer, you're preparing for a fight, so those things have to take a backward step. It becomes about business. It's okay for the first week, let him enjoy, let him break into it. As of next week, you know, you have to be focused on your business, because if you don't take it serious, then somebody else will take it serious and you get tipped upside down. So obviously that's not what we want. It's not what we're here for. But Tyson's Tyson. Tyson will never say no as well. You know, he always wants to pay back to the fans and look after the fans, and he appreciates the fans. So, you know, it's a hard job to try and manage and balance, especially when there's a few to try and do that for and with. But we know what we're doing. We've been there before. So as of next week, it'll be tightening up on a few things before preparation to head off to America.
So this is your 5th fight with him now. Obviously, each time you've had a fight, he's been in different shape from what he is now. He's getting fitter and fitter and fitter. We saw him in the best shape he's been in with the Schwarz fight, getting that early finish as well that I think he's really been after since the comeback as well. It's that kind of highlight reel, dropping an opponent. You all want to see it, and that's how you kind of announce yourself properly being back. This time, what's the difference between now and when he started his Schwarz camp?
When he started the Schwarz camp, he was in good shape. He was in good shape. We were starting from a good position. To be honest, there was one problem within that training camp, and it was that I'd been trying to get him to go on holiday and have a rest from training for a long time, and I kept trying, but unfortunately one of his kids wasn't well. He was due to go away, but one of the kids wasn't well, ended up in hospital, so the holiday got cancelled, and then he went on holiday a little bit closer towards the fight than I would have preferred. So it just set us back a little bit, I found. But this time he's not done that. He's had a little rest from training. He's really enjoying his stuff this week, and it's just finding the balance. And I always use that first week to assess where he's at, how he's feeling, put him through a couple of tests without him even knowing that they're tests. Sessions that I know, I can see how he's feeling, see how he's looking, test the strength of him, test where he is mentally and physically. And that's really what this first week's about, and I'm very happy with where he is. And to be honest, from what I can assess here, I'd like to hold him back a little bit. But I think you'll see Tyson keep improving. And I know people talk about, you know, obviously come had his comeback from an inactive period. Then it was like an extremely active period, which is very draining on the body. There's only so much the body can handle. Losing that amount of weight and going into 3 fights in such a quick, short space of time, and to go into that Deontay Wilder fight, you know, it's going to take his toll. He had time after that Deontay Wilder fight to recover, get balanced at the weight again, build his strength up again, and I think that showed, and I think that will play on into the next fight and the fights from here on.
So last time we were out here was kind of mid to late January, and he didn't have that fight date, and he was kind of restless, and you could tell, despite the fact he was on a beach in Marbella and had just had that huge night in LA from before, and it'd just been Christmas and he'd spent it with his family and everything, you could tell he was restless and annoyed. Whereas now he seems a lot more settled. He's got these fight dates and he knows they're coming. Do you sense that there is less frustration now that he has the dates?
He's got a plan in front of him, and he's found the balance between in camp, out of camp, what to do with his life when he's not in training, and that's a massive thing for Tyson. I think, like I said, I think it's paying dividends because he's not coming back massively overweight. You've got to take a shed load of weight off him. He's coming in shape, which is good. Obviously, you have to be aware of overtraining, which is something that I'm very wary of. But obviously, it's a good position to start training camp with for him, and mentally, it's a massively important thing to have the boxer in the right mindset, because if they're not, you're not going to get the best out of them. And I find that at the minute he's in the right mindset, and it's just about training camps. As much as it is getting them physically prepared for it, it's about getting mentally prepared for it, and that's what a training camp's for. That's what isolation's for. That's why, you know, it's good to start training camp here, then we go away and it's isolation. It's just a team, who's needed, no unnecessary socialising. Just what's needed, when it's needed, and preparing for a fight, because it doesn't matter if you're boxing Deontay Wilder or Tom Jones. You know, you've got to prepare properly, because
Especially with Tom Jones.
Of course, because everybody stands a chance.
You were saying earlier about being overly active and you wanting him to take a break. He had the fight on June 15th. Coming up again, it's probably only going to be 3 months between them again. So that's quite active. And then there is the talk of the Wilder fight happening early next year. Do you want him to have more time between the September date and Wilder, or would you like that to be closer so he can get the 3 quick fights?
I think this is the right amount of activity. You know, he had the Wilder fight. Obviously, if he could have got out a little bit earlier in the year, he may have been able to get out 3 times this year. It was what it was. So we boxed on June the 15th. 3 months between your fights is a good amount of time, I think, because you get time to recover, do what you need to do. He likes to come away and be dad, be a husband, be a brother, be a son, and have that time to do that. And then he comes back into training camp, and you have the right amount of time. But like I say, he's coming into training camp in shape, so that's good. 3 months is the right amount of time. Before, he went from June the 9th, was it, to
August 17th, I think, and then December 1st.
Yes, it was like, but after losing a lot of weight as well, it was very like boom, 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 on top of each other. So I think this is the right amount of time in between fights. And so far, like I say, it's showing. The performance against Tom Schwarz showed that. And this fight, God willing, will show that. And the fight after that, God willing, will show it again.
Do you need more time off between... Obviously, the Wilder fight was a war, really, wasn't it? 12 rounds, brutal, big hits, went down twice. Do you need a lot more time off between a fight like that and another big fight than you would if it was, say, the Tom Schwarz fight? Finished him early, 2nd round knockout, hardly a glove on him. Is it much easier for him, or is 3 months enough, whatever the fight?
It depends a lot on not only how the fight goes, but how the training camp goes. Sometimes fighters can go through training camps and really feel it, really be fatigued. Going into the fight can, you know, obviously you use that the last 10 days or so, sometimes 2 weeks I use to recharge the batteries. If the training camp's been a difficult one, sometimes you have to assess that as well and take that into consideration. The Deontay Wilder training camp was a very tough one in a short space of time as well. And the fight was a very, very tough fight. So I think having a good rest after that was good for him. And like I say, the proof's in the pudding. It showed in the Tom Schwarz performance.
So September 14th, Otto Wallin. Lots of names went about, and it was difficult for the promoters of trying to find an American to increase the exposure again. And obviously Tyson did such hard work on a PR front last time, didn't he? When he was in his camp in Vegas, half the energy must have been flying in between places, being all the TV appearances. This time, do you see it being similar?
Potentially, there was names being chucked about, offers going about. It's very difficult because you've got like three separate. You've got Al Heyman, PBC. You've got Top Rank, DAZN, with Joshua and that. So, they want to keep their heavyweights for who they've got. I know that Pulev's in a situation for the IBF mandatory. He's not going to take that fight. Didn't want to take that fight. Offer got put to Alexander Povetkin. He took the Huey fight. It's difficult, Tyson said that he wanted Big Baby Miller. He wasn't going to get his license in time. He then said Trevor Bryan, who's signed to fight Manuel Charr. It's very difficult, Adam Kawanaki, he's with PBC. Obviously Joshua and Ruiz are having their rematch. So it was difficult. Luis Ortiz and Deontay Wilder. But look, it's been spoke about. It's no secret that Tyson and Deontay are looking to fight at the early part of next year. So it wasn't the be all and end all because the big fight's around the corner. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. And again, we went for somebody that has the height. I know that Otto Wallin is a southpaw, but I think the height's very important, an important factor, because you do have to adjust your style to somebody who's shorter, and he ticks the boxes for what we need, and especially what we need going into the Deontay Wilder fight.
Have you sensed at any point, because Tyson keeps saying that, it's all in the promoter's hands, it's fine, but did you sense at any point that when we weren't finding out the date or the opponent, that was like that, almost that deja vu thing? It's like, oh, here we go, is it going to get put back? Is it going to get put back? Did you sense that in him, or has he been kind of calm with the whole thing?
Tyson literally sits back. Obviously I discussed with the team, with MTK, with Top Rank, about opponents and that. Tyson's like, yo, you sort it out. That was literally his words. You lot sort it out. He wasn't bothered, but it's difficult because we need to find the right type of opponent. Like I say, we want height. We don't want somebody short, although there was some offers, like I say, said there, some offers being thrown about because they did want a name. Ideally it was an American. Tyson did preferably want the Jarrell Miller fight, big talking American, who's got a bit of height, he's a big lump. Unfortunately it couldn't happen, so we went with Otto Wallin. He's just got to make sure that he prepares properly, gets the job done, and goes on to the Deontay Wilder fight. Frustrating, yeah, because it was supposed to be October the 5th, so it got cut back a little bit. But like I say, Tyson's been training, he's been active, he's ahead of schedule anyway.
How much do you know about Wallin? Because he's one of these, you keep getting him, kind of dangerous and relatively not unheard of, because if you know your boxing, you sort of know about them, but they're not in the mainstream, these fighters. And so it's another one that is a bit of an unknown quantity, right?
Yeah, he's ranked 5th with the WBA, and I think he's about 7th with the IBF. To be ranked in 2 organisations, you have to have earned that. I know that he's tall. He was a good amateur. Again, he's fundamentally sound. He's a southpaw, and he'll be ambitious. I know that he was in the mix for the Anthony Joshua fight when the Baby Miller situation happened. Based in New York, so he speaks good English. And at the end of the day, he's a boxer. He's got a pair of gloves on. He's been boxing for a long, long time, so he's going to be dangerous. Any heavyweight that puts a pair of gloves on is dangerous, especially if they've boxed at the level that he's boxed at as an amateur, professionally, ranked in 2 organisations. They're all a danger. There's not much difference between them, to be honest with you. Tyson's just got, as long as Tyson does Tyson, prepares properly, takes it seriously, is in the right mindset, right physical condition, the right game plan, he'll beat anybody.
And what's a perfect night for you against Otto Wallin? Because obviously, let's go back to the Pianetta fight. The last time he had a fight before Wilder, we knew the Wilder fight was coming. That night, you wanted rounds. He finished the fight, 10 rounds with Pianetta, and went back and did 2 rounds on the pads, didn't he?
Yeah.
In the changing room. Wallin, do you want a long fight, or do you want a short fight, like the Schwarz fight?
Listen, the truth of it is, it would be nice to get some rounds in. That is the truth. You know, fans might not like that. Fans want to see people get blasted out and want to see knockouts. But you know, it's common sense for Tyson to get some rounds in under the lights. Would be ideal. He's had a round and a half since the Deontay Wilder fight. So, but then again, Deontay Wilder's had 1 round. So not even that. It's 6-1, half a dozen of the other. I'd like to see Tyson get some rounds in and then get a nice stoppage. But look, as long as he prepares properly, he's in the right frame of mind and boxes to a game plan, works on a couple of things that I'd like us to be working on, I'm happy. Come out with a W, that's what it's about.
So you've also got Billy Joe here. Billy Joe this week has moved on from Frank Warren. Amicable split, all good, no problems there. But business-wise, the right time in the career, right?
It's the business end of Billy Joe's career. He's achieved a hell of a lot with Frank. Not just 1 world title, he's won 2 world titles with Frank in 2 different weight classes. You know, Frank's done a fantastic job with Billy Joe, and Billy Joe will always say to me and any young boxer, the best man to build you up is Frank Warren. He's done a fantastic job with Billy Joe from the very beginning. Always believed in him as well, and you know, Billy Joe will always speak highly of him. It was very important to Billy Joe that they kept a good relationship, and they have done. And it's all been very amicable. Not just saying that, it genuinely has been. So you know, but like again, it's difficult for Billy Joe to get these fights style-wise, let alone when people are with different managers, different promoters, different setups, different networks. It does make it really hard for him, and it's the business end of his career, and he wants to try and make those big fights. With Tyson, there's a deal in place for the Deontay Wilder fight, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. He knows that that's there. So, you know, anything up until that, not that it doesn't matter, but you know that that's there. For Billy Joe, there's no light at the end of the tunnel at the minute. It's very, very difficult for him. He's going to have to try and see what he can do to work with MTK to see what they can do to try and get those big fights for him.
Because I think he kind of had one loosely penciled in it that was kind of similar level to the Isufi fight. Obviously, he won a world title with that fight, but it wasn't the marquee event.
Billy Joe wants an elite level fight. Yeah. It's world level, but there's world level and there's elite level. Billy Joe wants those elite level fights, and like I say, it's nobody's fault. It's very, very difficult to make those fights when people are with different networks, and even if you're not that network's main man, they want to save you for their main man. The reality of it is, you hear it all the time, but boxing is a business. Unfortunately, that's what it is. It is a business. Frank's done a fantastic job with him. He'll always speak highly of Frank. He'll be working with MTK to see where he goes next.
In terms of the planning ahead and the forethought, how frustrating is it for you when these fights aren't getting made because of fighters on this network, this promoter, so on and so on?
Very difficult, you know. Listen, there was a list of names that I chucked forward that I would have liked, but, you know, this person's with that. The problem, Big Baby couldn't get his licence. Adam Kalanaki's with PBC. Povetkin took the Huey fight. Pulev's IPF mandatory. Ortiz's boxing Miller. Ruiz and Joshua rematch. Very, very difficult, you know. That's a big chunk of the heavyweight division put to one side. So it's a very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating for the fans as well. The fans would love to see elite level fight, elite level fight, elite level fight, elite level fight, but boxing doesn't work like that. It is a business. Developing a portfolio, it takes time. With Tyson, like I say, he's, you know, that fight's there. Going into the Pianetta fight, people knew that the Wilder fight was round the corner. Going into this fight, they know that the Wilder rematch is round the corner. So I think it sort of keeps the fans happy to say, okay, yeah, let's see how he's looking, knowing that that's round the corner. And the same with Wilder. Let's see how Wilder's looking, knowing that that's round the corner. But when there is nothing round the corner, it's very, very frustrating for boxers.
Each fight is also a risk for the fighter, isn't it? Like now is very obvious with the 2 deaths recently, and Dadashev, a top-ranked fighter as well. You know, you can't kind of scoff at any fight knowing what the fighters are putting on the line every time they go in.
The fans don't realise that every fight is a dangerous fight. Every fight is a dangerous fight. Any man who's been boxing for a long time, when you put those little gloves on, can punch. You can't take strenuous training camp, strenuous fight, strenuous training camp, strenuous fight. You can't keep doing that. I'm a firm believer in that humans have evolved, which you can see in records, Olympic records, world records. They're all getting broken. Men hit harder, run faster, throw further, sprint quicker. So fights are only physically getting tougher for boxers. With the improvement of nutrition, strength and conditioning, many other areas, fights physically are tougher for boxers. I know fights were 15 rounds back then, and it annoys a lot of older generation people for that to be said, but the proof's in the pudding. Like I said, men run quicker, they run further, they throw further, they hit harder. Nutrition's improved, strength and conditioning's improved, we understand the body better. That's just how it is, and that's how I see it. And the heavyweights today compared to the heavyweights back then, I'm just talking heavyweights at the minute, it's like giants. I remember when it was Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, and people said these are giants, 6'4" and 6'3", and we're talking about 6'9". It's a different ball game, and every fight and every training camp is a grueling training camp. And if the fight looks easy, there's been a grueling training camp, and that takes its toll on the human body as well. And that's something that people and fans need to understand and respect as well. That okay, sometimes the fight might look easy, but doesn't mean it's been easy to get there. Years and years and years of putting your body through what you put your body through to get there. You can't just sit back and go, "Oh, it's his job." You have to respect it. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So if you've never seen what somebody has to put themselves through, you would never know. When you do see it, and you do understand it, and you do know what it takes, then you'll have more respect for it.
And let's talk now about a fight a couple of weeks ago. Nathan Gorman very well, training in Hatton's gym. Daniel Dubois, like you just mentioned there, giant heavyweight, throws a hell of a punch. Nathan, it wasn't his night, but it was very much Daniel Dubois' night. How do you see those two guys, their sort of near future?
Daniel's a very promising young heavyweight. He's very good fundamentally. He's obviously physically very strong, and I think he's got a good mindset, and he's very cool, calm and collective inside, which I think was the difference between those two in that fight. I think that Nathan let his emotions get above him in terms of not afraid. I think he wanted to show so much of, I can match you. It was a bit of an ego thing for Nathan. I think he thought, I'm going to let everybody know that I'm just as strong as you, and whereas he probably should have used his skill set a little bit more. And I think he wanted to show that I've got heart. And even when he got hurt, he went flying back into Daniel trying to have a fight. Looking back was probably the wrong thing to do, but he'll learn from that. He's only young, big crowd there. He probably thought, I'm not letting anybody think that I'm scared and can't match this man, and got drawn into a fight. Daniel was stuck to a game plan, very cool, calm and collected, and he done a very good job. I think that a good fight for Daniel's probably somebody's going to take him some rounds, teach him. Marius Wack, somebody like that.
Someone, say European level or Commonwealth level.
European level, yeah. Somebody that's he's going to have to think a little bit. For Nathan, same sort of thing. I wouldn't take him too far back. I think he's there or thereabouts. I just think that emotionally he got a little bit too involved, and probably wanted it that little bit too much, rather than took it in his stride and thought it was a boxing match at the end of the day. I'm gonna do what I do. Simple as that. So I wouldn't take Nathan 10 steps back. I'd keep him on the track that he was going, and he would have learnt a lot from that fight.
Do you think Nathan as well, that fight, I know the fight in theory came a bit early in their careers just because they both wanted it so much, but with Nathan as well, he's come off the back of 3 fights where he's found out his opponent at 2 days notice of one of them, and 3 or 4 days notice before, and he had a fight in Brentwood, I think, back end of last year, where he was fighting with one hand for 8 rounds. And so they all went the distance, whereas Dubois has been on a streak of just knocking everybody over. Do you think a little bit with Nathan, like you said, he maybe wanted it too much, is he hasn't had that momentum going in of the big sort of knockout wins, the big impressive victories before he took on the monster fight of that magnitude?
Sometimes momentum can play a part, but then again, look at Tyson. He had 2 warm-up fights and got stuck straight into Deontay Wilder, and can't keep going back over it, but he won that fight. The truth be known, when people were asking me about the fight, I was saying I don't know. I don't know, because the reality of it is we haven't seen enough of them. They've not been in a fight, a big fight, to see how they react to it. And I just think that Daniel was the one who kept his emotions a little bit cooler, whereas Nathan probably thought he just let his emotions get the better of him. He wanted it so much, a little bit too much, and I think it threw him away from his game plan a little bit.
And another fight we're going to have on BT in a couple of weeks is the Yard Kovalev fight. I would say not a million miles away from Tyson going to fight Klitschko. In an ageing champion going to their patch, going to their territory to take him on. I would guess, I've not looked at the bookies odds, but I would guess that Sergey Kovalev is the favourite for that fight. Do you think Yard deserves a lot of credit for taking on that fight, and also how do you think he's going to do there?
He does, yeah. One thing with the difference between Klitschko and Tyson was that Klitschko was like 10 years unbeaten, you know. Kovalev has been beaten in recent times. But Yard deserves a lot of credit, and I'm backing Anthony Yard to win that fight. If I just put a... what's it when you're in Harry Potter when he puts the cloak on?
The invisibility cloak.
The invisibility cloak. If I made the opponent invisible and just watched Anthony Yard when he was boxing, what he does fundamentally in his skill set is very, very good. And if he can take that into this level, he'll be successful. The only thing that I don't know about, not because I've seen something, it's just because I haven't seen it yet, is that the physicalities of Kovalev in terms of conditioning, the way he, should be able to hold a shot, the tempo and round management from his experience, the size, the power, is to see how Anthony Yard deals with those sides of things. Skill set alone, Anthony Yard's a better fighter than Kovalev, I believe. From what I see, if he can take what he does, what he's been doing, into that fight. It's just the physical side of things that I see the only upset coming. I don't see him get majorly outboxed if, like I say, he can take what he's been doing into that fight. So it's an interesting fight, but I'm backing him to do it. I think he will do. I think that he's shown that he's got a pair of bollocks to go over there straight away. So that says to me that I don't think he's going to get there and flap unless he's just going for the money, but I don't think he would do that. So I'm backing him to do it. I think he'll do it, yeah.
And that's been the biggest criticism he's faced, really, isn't it, for his whole career. Everyone says you haven't fought anyone, it's been cherry-picked for you. There's been no point in... We all know full well, if you want to find a way out of a fight, someone will find a way out of a fight for you. At no point have they said, well, we're not going there. Even when the fight was just a rumour, they said they'd go. I
think he's up for the challenge. And sometimes you have to see, this is the problem where I may not agree with everything that Tunde says or does. I've got respect for him. I think he's a good trainer. Everybody's got their own philosophy. So I'm not going to agree with everything he says or does. He's not going to agree with everything that I say or do. He understands that boxing needs developing. A boxer needs developing. And there's no point saying you're not ready for that fight in terms of technically, or there's still weaknesses in your game, but let's chuck you in anyway. He's waited until he feels it's the right time for Anthony Yard to take this step up. And nobody will know that better than him, because he's with him every day. So he feels it's the right time, and I've got to respect that he understands that, and that's what he's been doing. You know, I'm sure he could have looked for a quick buck, thrown Anthony Yard into a tougher fight for a little bit more money, drawn a few quid himself, and took the chance. But he wants the best for Anthony Yard, I feel, because he's took his time, focused on the development of his boxer, and put him into the fight at the right time. I think they've done a fantastic job along with Frank and BT Sport with Anthony Yard.
And then another fella you know from Hatton's, and you know him from Spain now as well. He's been out here for 2 months becoming a celebrity. Old Tommy boy, yeah. Rivaling you for tan as well.
Yeah.
Obviously,
he ain't rivaling me for a set of guns, is he?
Obviously that's been brilliant for his profile and everything, and I think actually, I'll say he's out here, I think today we saw photos of him back at Hatton's gym.
Yeah.
Is that... You know him well, and obviously you work so closely with Tyson. Are you relieved to know that he's gone back to the gym and he's not, dining out on the celebrity thing?
Look, it's not for me to decide what he wants to do, but one thing I will say is he fight. He can fight. And if I was him, I would get straight back into the boxing. He's done wonders for his profile. I think he's a good boxer. I think he's got bundles of talent. He's only young. He's now got a massive profile behind him. I'd get straight back into it. I'm sure his dad would give him the right advice. I'm sure Tyson would give him the right advice. I'm sure Ricky would give him the right advice. I'm sure he'll get, like you say, he's back in the gym now. And I think that's the right thing to do because, like I say, he can box. And I think Tommy could do something.
Tommy's also taken more flack for being the brother of someone so well known than anyone I can remember recently. He's had 2 professional fights, and every single time he has a fight, someone says, "Oh, he's not going to make it. Oh, he only just beat this guy, or he didn't knock this guy out, or he took more than 8 seconds to knock this guy out." He's already had that level of criticism in his early fights, and now being as well known as he is, his fights, even though they're at an early level, will have more spotlight on them than probably a boxer should at their 3rd, 4th, 5th professional fight. Do you think being the brother of Tyson and having the criticisms he's already had in his short career is going to help him with having this extra spotlight on whatever he does next?
I think that he deals with it well, Tommy, to be honest. I always have done from the beginning. I think that he handles the pressure. I think he answers the questions the right way. I think he's got the right mindset. And you're always going to get that criticism, no matter where. As soon as you get to a certain level, people are going to criticise. And I was talking about this earlier, actually, and it was saying that most people, because somebody doesn't support somebody, they say that they hate them or they're haters. Just because somebody doesn't support you doesn't mean they're not a hater. It just means that they don't give a and that's the worst place you can be in. If someone's got an opinion, it's because they're interested, whether it's in a bad way or a good way. And as long as they're interested, that's all you need to be doing as a boxer. And if people are talking about Tommy from his first fight and his second fight, then fair play to him. He's then gone on to Love Island, boosted his profile again, and let me tell you, he can punch and he can box. I think he'll do well. I think he'll do very well if he sticks to it, commits himself to the sport, and as long as BT Sport put their hand in their pocket because he's got a good profile now, I think he'll do all right.
You're looking at me there like I've got anything to give him. How's Tyson feel about Tommy getting more followers than him now?
Tyson don't even go on his Instagram anymore, to be honest, but I've been doing all that, but he's very, very pleased. If anybody mentions it, he loves it. He's pleased for him.